out with us here at ModernLoop and kind of see what we are bringing to the table here with our premium candidate portal, which we're really excited to bring to current customers, potential customers. We think it's going to provide a really great experience for your candidates. In terms of the housekeeping items, number one, you guys may have heard that this call is being recorded. We will make sure to send out the recording to everyone who's registered. So what that means is if your colleagues happen to have registered and just unable to make it, we'll still make sure that we send the recording out. And then, of course, if we send you one, you want to share it with your colleagues, please feel free to do so. While we're cruising through this, I have a couple of my colleagues also on our side of this. So if we are progressing through and you happen to have any questions, please feel free to leverage the Q&A section for the Zoom webinar. We'll try to answer a good amount of those as we progress through. And then actually when we get towards the end, if there's any outstanding or any kind of repeat questions, we'll go ahead and answer those live. And again, have a nice little dedicated section right at the end for Q&A. All of that said and done, I think what we're going to do is hop right in to the webinar and kind of see what we have to offer here with our candidate portal. So very first thing, kind of what you guys are seeing on the screen is just going to be our landing page for our task within ModernLoop. The reason we're here is actually going to be coming and starting once we get down into the organization settings. This is where all of the setup for your guys' candidate portal on the back end is going to exist for a lot of the page templates. As you navigate into your organization settings, you're then going to come into this specific tab for candidate portal. The very first thing that you're going to land into is going to be some setup. And the setup that you guys have the opportunity to establish here is going to be able to control when an individual's candidate's portal ends up being expired. And you have kind of two scenarios for this. One, if and when the candidate is hired, we will expire out the candidate portal at a time of your choosing, either 15, 30, 60, or 90 days, or immediately. The flip side of that is if you happen to reject a candidate, you're going to have the same options there to either immediately expire out their actions and access to the candidate portal, 15, 30, 60, and 90 days. The reason we wanted to include this, just for a little context, is if for some reason you guys do reject a candidate, we actually want you to have more of a warm handoff and be able to have an opportunity to communicate to those candidates rather than to just try to go to the candidate portal and suddenly they get the news because their access has been denied. So just a little context as to why there. Up at the top railing are going to be the other scenarios that I can flow into. We're going to pop into branding themes first. Branding themes is going to be a way that your company has an opportunity to establish profile picture as well as a brand header. And you can actually have multiple branding themes possible. The reason and where this will start to come in to play is when we go into the job setup in just a little bit, you'll actually be able to choose a branding theme by job. And we've seen some of our customers start to scale out their branding themes to be kind of job or kind of group specific, right? So we've seen some that for engineering roles in their brand header there, they have more like cogs or something that kind of speaks to the engineering world. Whereas for like their go-to-market side of the house, they have different branding. And that's going to be some of the functionality and some of the flexibility you have here with these branding themes. Popping into a new branding theme is how you'll establish your first one. The very first thing is you'll just give it a name, of course, entirely up to you on what you guys choose to select. You're going to first then choose that profile picture, which is the one that's kind of in the circle in the background there. In terms of the items that we support, we do support multiple file types. It's going to be JPG, JPEG, PNG, and then GIFs. We also have a max upload file size for these of 5 megabytes, and the suggested dimension there are going to be 300 by 300 by 300. After that, we have the branding cover image. Let me just go through a flow here to snag these real quick. Just to kind of showcase, of course, how easy it is to pull these in. And you'll see as I snag that, we'll create a new one here. Outstanding. The reason I always like to do this live with you guys is as we progress forward, we're actually going to get to a point where you get a nice little preview. There's 2 callouts here. We're going to have one for the desktop view of your candidates. Then also everything on a candidate side is also going to be focused for mobile. And we'll show as we continue through the webinar a couple different places that you can kind of refer to the mobile preview. Once you're confirmed there and everything looks as expected, simply save the theme. You'll see it fall into the background here as we start to save this through. Something went wrong. Sounds about right, because I've had about 4 of these. So if you are going to be doing this, just make sure that you have all of your correct file sizes. Everything's good to go there. Once you have your branding themes all set up, and again, you do have 12 of those that you can choose from, the next place you're going to navigate is going to be over to the page templates. And this is where you and the team actually are going to have an opportunity to create some very defined content that you can ship out to your candidates at specific parts within their candidate journey. You'll see I have a couple of these preset with indicators about maybe it's the About Us section for the company, specific offer, recruiting prep, virtual on-site, and a few others. I'm just going to look into an edit for one, and we'll go over how to build these out. I'm going to pop into this edit, and you'll notice I have some content already built, and that's just, again, because I want to make sure that we have this looking full and robust for y'all. The way that we end up getting these content in here is going to be in this form of content blocks that you see over to the right. The very first one that you see here is going to be a custom text block. The way that this is going to function, you'll see it gets added down here to the bottom. Very simple. It's just going to be a way that you and the teams have full control to input all of the specific verbiage and text that you want to choose or convey out to your candidates. You'll notice we have a couple different headers and different sizes that you and the team can start to use. And again, if you do want to pivot between these, just simply select and move them through. Continue on this string, you can get to something that looks a little bit like this pop text block. One of the bonuses that you also have here is your typical style like Word formatting. You can kind of do different alignments, right siding, center. You can give it a list view. Again, pull it where you need it. Bullets, you can do your bold, all that good stuff. Another cool functionality that we provide in here is also the ability to hypertext your link. And we've seen some customers do some really cool things, especially for like on-sites. I actually had a customer who used a Google Maps link that they put in, because again, if you think about that mobile perspective, a lot of candidates, maybe they're driving to the office for those on-sites. It's really easy for them to navigate to their one-stop shop candidate portal. And at that point, it'll pull them directly into Maps and they just say, take me there. That's going to be the text, custom text block. Over to the right side of that, we have our images. As I select this one, you'll see the image kind of flows into the background here. Again, supported file types, we have JPG, JPEG, PNG, and GIF. Max upload size, 5 megabytes, and again, 300 by 300 on your pixels there. I am going to snag a new image for this one, kind of just to showcase that as I add this, you may notice that the image is not necessarily sized exactly for the screen here. What we'll actually do is if you want to size that up, just give us a toggle over on this fill page with image. Now you'll see that that's going to be a little larger and fit a little more nicely within the rest of this page. You can also, for this, give it a header. And then, of course, down below, you can add any sort of additional information. We'll go ahead and remove that one, move on to the next page template, or the block here. Next one over is going to be a video. Pretty simple. It's going to allow you to embed, just like you see here, center mass on the screen. Different video types we support. It's going to be YouTube, Loom, and Vimeo. As you add this, it's pretty simple. You would just look to pull the video URL. Again, you can apply a header as well as a video caption to maybe explain a little bit more about what is in that video. Cruising on to our next content block, we're going to have content cards. Content cards are actually pretty cool in the way that they function. Again, thinking about mobile, it is going to be this kind of side swipe functionality. And what you can do here is, again, provide a header such as your company values. Add a little bit of text in there about what that value is, progress to the next one. And again, continue on with this train of thought, like showcasing a little bit of the personality of your company. Other things I have seen customers use this for, right, is we want to give our candidates line of sight for what they have to expect with their interviewing process. So this is where you could go, step one, prep call. Into step two, maybe that's your virtual on-site. Step three, maybe that's going to be a different style call, right? So this is where you can, again, control the type of information that you're providing to your candidates. And I'll have a nice callback on all these cards as we start to get into the previews just to see a proof of concept there. Next one over is going to be linked cards. Linked cards is actually going to be this one right here, center of mass for you again. And what this provides is a little bit different from the content cards where I'm controlling the exact verbiage all the way through. This is going to allow us to provide a simple URL or really any URL. We're going to do a nice little web scrape of what that image is. If you don't like the image that we snag from the web, feel free to replace that. You'll have the supported file types and the max size right above there, like all of the images. And then as you see, we also have the header and body text that you and the teams have control over. So maybe you don't want this addition here about the automate your recruiting efforts. We can just simply tune it down to ModernLoop specifically. Again, you have the same functionality. And as you want to add maybe additional cards, just simply come down to the bottom. You have your 4 that are established here. And you can go add card, and then you would have your option to pull in an additional URL. Let's go ahead and update our block since we did make that one change there. And then the very last item here is actually pretty simple. It's just a divider. And what that does is provides us a nice little hard line in the sand that we can pull up in between any of these blocks with just a nice little visual for a space between some of the content there. Outstanding. Again, also at the top, you do have the ability to provide a title for this. So as we save and exit from this preview, you'll be able to understand which of those page templates you're working from and where you will be pulling them. Also from here, because as you start to scale this, you may notice a few things. Over to the ellipses to the right here, this is how I got into editing the pre-made page template. I also have functionality to duplicate it. So if I have a really solid framework for what I am looking for, I just want to do a couple edits, maybe make it a little more job specific. So when you can come in here, duplicate, it'll provide a replica of that, and then you can obviously update the title and then edit the content within there. Bonus here about the page templates is unlike the branding themes where we had a limit of 12, page templates do not have any current limits. So again, depending on different types of content, whether that's job specific, maybe you just want to bolster your backend here with a lot of different options. There's no real limit on page templates thus far. Alrighty, so we've gone through, right, setting up when the candidate portal is going to expire. We've touched and made some brands, and we now have a couple page templates built. Let's go attach those to a job. For this, we're going to navigate over here to our jobs. We're going to track down the one that we're looking for right here in our CSM role. For this, I'm going to navigate directly over on the top railing here to candidate portal. From this, it's going to drop me into this view. You'll see I don't have a whole bunch set up here just yet. And we'll kind of take this from the top down, do some setup, and then we'll get into the preview in just a moment. The very first thing that you have your initial determinations to make is, what is the job name you want to display? I know that for a lot of our customers, their job names sometimes have the location where that actual seat is found, right? So customer success, San Francisco, customer success, New York. If that's not something that you want to convey to your candidates, rather than using the exact name from Greenhouse, we are giving you guys options here to edit that exactly to what you want to convey over. Or maybe you've deviated away from that and you want to move back, just give us a check on that box and we will pull over that specific ATS name. I'm using Greenhouse, but this is synonymous with all of our ATSs. Next one down is just going to be a quick introduction. So going to sit right at the top of the candidate page. Once they start to action that, they're going to be able to get a little bit of context. You guys get full functionality to add anything in here, up to 300 characters. We've seen customers use this in a couple different ways. Hey, welcome to your candidate portal. What can you find here? What can you action here? Others would maybe have a little more job specific. Again, entirely up to your control for the content you guys would like to put in here. Below that, we're going to have the branding themes. So thinking back to the branding themes that we just created, I'm going to hit the drop down here. And you see we have one set for the default as well as the others that have been kind of made. We're going to go with our default. You'll see we have a callback from our org settings if we'd like to make that. So we've kind of got the skeleton of it. Right? We have our job name, we've got our branding. Now let's start to add in some content. This is the below portion for our content tabs. We're going to start to call over to those page templates. And the very first thing you'll notice, we provided a name. Let's go with About Us. For there, we can also control when this is visible to the candidate. So you'll see I have always visible here, never visible, and I can also have the option to choose a specific stage once they get progressed there. I'll continue to show this as we start to cruise through, and I'm going to add a couple more page templates in here. After this, we'll go recruiter prep. And then actually for this one, I want to have this gated anytime that a candidate does reach the prelim phone screening, that they then get to see this. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this up to the top. So as the candidate enters into that prelim phone screening, this is going to be the content that they see first. That'll make a little more sense when I start to get into the preview of this. And then one more just here at the bottom for that offer. Again, I'm going to realign these just to kind of pull up based off the journey of the candidate. Let's go ahead and save these changes because I feel like I got a good little framework here. And now I'm going to come up and I'm going to preview this candidate portal. I'm going to pull into the candidate portal and you'll notice a couple things right at the top here. One, we're in preview mode for this specific job. I have my options to view this on either desktop or mobile. As we select mobile, kind of gives us that phone view, if you will. Over to the right, this is how we'll get out of here at the end of the day. And over to the right below the exit, it's going to be how you can actually choose those different stages. So as we can kind of preview this, right, we have our branding theme at the top. We have our profile picture. Again, this was the job name that I so choose to have. This was that introduction. And then we can get into the content. You'll notice right here is going to be my call out for those page templates. As I progress through the stages in just a second, I want to invite you to just keep an eye on this space. We'll go through and kind of just take a preview. Yep, this looks like the content I built out. Yep, got my one edit that I made. Content cards pull through. That preview looks great. Now, again, keeping your eye here, I'm going to move the stage forward into that prelim phone screening. You'll notice this prep call is now the first page that I, as a candidate, would see. So keeping up with where your candidate is with the journey and allowing you to gate the specific information and kind of get that to them in the forefront based off where they are at. Again, you'll kind of have some nice information. Here's kind of where your hiring team is. Take a glimpse at the interview process, right? Recruiter call, hiring manager, progress through. Again, focusing here, progress to that next stage. On-site's now the first thing I met with. So as I come back as a candidate, this is now the most relevant information. Still have ability to get into those other locations, just got to go hunting for them. And then finally, we'll move into offer. That's going to be our last step here. We'll take a quick run through of this on mobile. It's going to be our page templates as well, and the different options that we can look to, whether it's our interviews and messages. Interviews and messages are going to be nice locations. Interviews, obviously, as candidates get booked, we're going to have a list of all of those running for both upcoming and past interviews for a frame of reference. And the very last one is going to be messages. So as you start to communicate with the Modern Loop templates out to your candidates, that'll be also centralized in a single location. I'm going to pop out of this. I'm going to leave this all set up here, and I'm actually going to pivot over to an actual candidate within our demo site here. Alrighty, so let's have a quick reset. We did a bunch of configuration. We set up branding themes. We set up page templates. We attached that to the job that we're here for. How do we get this to a candidate? We can end up sending this to a candidate in a couple different ways. In the top right here, you'll notice we have our candidate portal beta, which is currently inactive. You'll maybe be asking, how do we activate this? That's going to happen a couple different ways. The first way, without doing anything with the candidate, you guys have the option to come here, simply say, enable candidate portal. You'll notice right now, it went from inactive to active, and it provided me a link that is going to be a link specific for the candidate portal. So maybe you have some sort of communication already going on with the candidate, and you just want to ship this over to them. You can easily copy this, paste it into any form that you're looking for. I'm going to disable this for right now because one of the other ways that we have to do this is with sending the availability for either availability or sending a self-schedule request. I'm going to run through a self-schedule request real quick just to kind of get this knocked out, because as I make the determination here, we'll go ahead and send. As we fall into the back here again, inactive, with this kind of pulling through. Get a quick refresh here on this. You'll now see that that candidate portal is active. So another way that this can be sent out is through those requests. So again, the first interaction that you make with your candidates on those requests, you can instead kind of usher them over to the direction of their candidate portal, which has a lot of that more robust information. Right now, I'm waiting for the candidate because I'd sent out that self-schedule request. So let's go ahead and do that. I'll pull over my emails. I have my item here. I'm going to go ahead and action through. With the candidate portal, I do always like to cover this. We do have a one-time password security standpoint. We believe this is just in the best interest of your candidates. They're going to input the email that they prefer to get the one-time passcode to. They're going to say get code, progress here, and we'll just simply navigate back to my email address. Pretty snappy on the send there, so we'll just quickly snag this, paste that in, accept terms and conditions, make sure to read those in full as everyone does. And we'll verify and progress into making our initial selections here. You may be asking, hey, where's all of that premium content portal? And the answer for that comes into the token that was used within that communication. So I specifically chose to send them the self-schedule link. And because of that, they flowed right into this workflow. We do have a communication token that is specific for the candidate portal URL. So if I were to have provided that, we would have been looking at the what's next section. Instead, what we're going to do is kind of keep the workflow with the least amount of path or least amount of effort there. And then we'll just pull back in that candidate portal. You'll notice now, again, it's more branded to me as the candidate. Because I'm in the prep call or recruiter prep screen within the ATS, that is also the content that I'm looking at here. In terms of what's next, because I just took the action of self-scheduling, you'll notice I now have this item that is the meeting that I booked. If I pop over to interviews, you'll notice now this is also where I have the option to go. I did schedule with a Zoom meeting link. This is, I can easily navigate here and directly log into that Zoom. Also for the messages, right? So this was the initial message for the self-schedule link. This was just the confirmation, confirming that my interview is booked at this specific time. Kind of expand out and get a more defined look of what these look for. As the candidate, you can kind of also get any old links that they may need to reaction. Let's go back to home. We'll just hang out here for a moment. I'm actually going to pop back into ModernLoop. Ideally, right, we flow through to this. We progress them to that next stage. We're going to go ahead and make an availability request just to see that roll into that what's next section. We'll save. We'll run through all the prompts here. Awesome. Now that's out to the candidate. So what would because I've progressed forward in the stages, I would expect as I refresh my screen here to now pull in that additional page template. Oops, and I realize I do have to move to this stage right there. Outstanding. Now, as we progress here, what we should be seeing is exactly what I was expecting, right? So now I have that on-site information, still have that past interview that's upcoming, but now because I have that open request, this is how I can pop in and submit my availability. So again, this what's next section is always going to be prompting your candidates with that next kind of call to action, whether it's, hey, we are booked. Now we just need to wait for this date and time to come, and then we'll facilitate the interview. Or I got a new request. I navigate back to my candidate portal. I have new information about the onsite. I'm going to submit availability for that. And then it'll roll back to me as the recruiter and the coordinator to schedule. Awesome. Alrighty. We'll go ahead and just run through here, submit just to kind of see what the availability side of this looks like. We're going to make some selections here through our availability, continue forward, submit, and then again, we can go back to our application, which is also going to be that portal. Since I have answered all of my what's next, I don't have anything outstanding. You'll notice I've dropped this down to either join or view availability. Viewing availability is just going to pull up all the availability that they just provided. Of course, they can delete or submit new availability. Awesome. We also have the ability to log out, which is what we will do right now. Alrighty, so I know we are pretty close to coming to the end of this. That is going to bring to a close all of the demo functionality with, again, setting up any configurations, establishing yours and the team's brand, running through all of the actual page templates and all of the great content you guys have control over to build for your candidates. Then, of course, we attached them to jobs and then ran through a little bit for that candidate side. If I happen to miss anything or you're curious about additional questions, now's a great time to toss those into the Q&A section. We can answer some of those live. I saw a couple come in that I think my team got a good hold of. The other thing, as maybe you're generating some of those questions, I want to call out is for any of our current customers, is this something that you are curious about that you would like to pull in for your team and your candidates? Reach out to your customer success manager and we'll partner with you on getting this enabled and working on some content. If you're not a current customer, what we will do is we will be following up with you because, of course, we will send out that recording of this call. And we're also going to have just a nice little touch point about kind of your thoughts, how you feel about this, and if this would be something you'd like to bring to your teams and your candidates. Alrighty. So I haven't seen any new questions pop in here to the chat. So if you don't have any questions, that's great. Please let us know in follow-ups through both those channels. If you do have any aha moments, we'd like to kind of roll back to anything here. And then again, just do want to thank everyone for taking time out of your afternoon to come learn a little bit about some of the offerings we have here with the ModernLoop Candidate Portal. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.